maybe you could tell us a little bit more too, but we've got some Black Friday specials. Like, these are crazy. And you want to take advantage of them. It's really amazing that, there's some opportunities out there for you to be able to engage in what Bellum is offering for coaches and for leaders, for coaching leaders. So the Black Friday specials, and I think we're going to pop them in the box there, being able to save off the Business Accelerator, and also being able to save on the Mastermind. Folks, these are amazing opportunities. We're cycling back to these. They'll be better than the times before. And would love for you to be engaged in that.
Absolutely. But we are here today, really, and that's all wonderful. We always want you to know what's going on, because we want to engage with you, like I said, outside of here, outside of CCMag, and really have those connections with face to face, even though it's on Zoom, still have those face to face where we can actually talk and speak into each other's lives. We are here tonight. The purpose is really to connect with our contributors. We like to think that it's bringing the words of CCMag and having them jump off the page by the authors who wrote the article. So we're really excited about that. We do want this to be an interactive experience. So please you can put your questions in. You can, we want to make sure that if something's on your mind, if you hear something, pop it in, and we'll make sure that we take a look at your questions and feed those in to our contributors as they are talking around their articles.
So yeah, this fall issue was just amazing. I mean, every issue gets better. And so I think is this the 5th issue under Bellum? And there were 3 new conversation videos, which I think really just livens it up literally and adds to that conversation. We had Mr. Joe Ivy talk about ethics and AI in healthcare. Corey Cummings told us about not being afraid of artificial intelligence and really talked about how it can empower coaches. Karen Tan spoke about team coaching and the importance of understanding the impacts of cultural diversity. In addition to those videos, the CCMag had 10 articles with 8 to 10 of those focusing on artificial intelligence. And so this is just such an important time for practitioners to raise their voice. And I think also just, practitioners with a faith perspective. So
yeah, and we know that especially around artificial intelligence, there's a lot that's on the minds of people. And one of the ways that that Bellum, we love to research things. We love to know what's on your mind. So if you have not taken the AI survey, it's for coaches and consultants, for practitioners. If you haven't taken that yet, we would love for you to grab that link out of the chat and be able to do that after the webinar. It's maybe 6 minutes of your time, but we're really interested in learning, what is the readiness for practitioners and how are you using AI? Because it's really important for us to be informed so that we can then rise to the occasion to see where are the needs of the people that we serve. One of the areas that we want to talk about real quick before we put people in is around what we've developed, right, Diane?
we do. We do.
Let's get to
it. Yeah, we talked really about those guiding principles for practitioners. This was something we created really before the fall issue came out. And it's really looking at God as creator, honoring and caring for others, that co-creating through collaboration and partnerships, intentional, continuous learning, really those permissions and privacy, transparency, and informed consent, research and thought leadership, each area, that we brought to the table really with that belief, that biblical inspiration as a guiding scripture. We use that, and really what the practitioner could commit to. Those commitments are for self-awareness and for that professional application, and really just using those, being able to use those. So just a really exciting piece, I think, that's helping us as Christian coaches and coaches, really, as we're navigating this space with intentionality?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that when we were in the development phase for those, we know that it does have a Christian lens on it. However, we know that anyone can pick these up and take a look at it and pick out things that they gravitate to, that they align with. And it doesn't mean that that we throw our Christian faith out the window when AI comes. It's like, okay, we need to dig in a little bit more and really see how we can align our faith with artificial intelligence and what's coming to the world.
Mhm.
Yes,
It's here.
it is
It's
here.
here.
It is here. And
Yeah.
we would love for you to check those out, really read through and commit, because these are commitments. So commit to adopt these. And we do have a digital signature that you're able to click on, and it's in the chat that after you read through, you can click on that and be part of a global practitioner pool where we are saying, yes, we're Christian, yes, we have faith, but yes, we are aligning our artificial intelligence and how we are going to be practicing as practitioners with our faith.
Hmm. Yeah. In addition to that, part of that digital signature, we'd love to have your feedback,
Mhm.
on these as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I think we've talked enough.
Too much.
As always.
Let's go.
Go. All right. Let's bring out our contributors. All right. So for this session, we have Dr. Bob Driver Bishop, we have Ms. Tammi Ector, we have Dr. Justin Tilghman. Come on out. We'd love to see you. Start this
Yeah,
conversation off.
definitely. Yeah, we're going to start with our fall feature article by one of our new contributors, Dr. Tilghman. Justin, welcome. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you do professionally. Your article was the fall feature, the role of AI in improving coaching effectiveness, a Christian perspective. And it was really just a powerful quote you had here was, "The future of coaching has arrived, a fusion of promise and timeless gospel truth." So tell us maybe what you were thinking when you developed your article.
Yeah, so I work in higher education as I'm a dean in our local college, and I also do life and leadership coaching. And when I saw the call for articles, the big thing that stuck out to me, and I think Dr. Whelan had mentioned it early on, that when you hear the term AI, there's a lot of thoughts that bubble up in people's minds around that. And I think sometimes as Christians, we tend to immediately think negatively about any new thing that pops up on the screen. And for me, in the coaching space, and being a millennial, it's one of those things where I'm excited when new things come out. So I wanted to dive deep into, let's hit pause and hold judgment on this AI thing for a little bit, and really see how we can use it. Because it's a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool, just like anything else. And we've seen how other tools have increased our ability to serve God in so many different ways. The internet has given us a reach across the globe to share the gospel. Smartphones have increased our ability to connect with people. And I saw AI, especially in the coaching space, as another way to do that. Just another way to be more efficient in our coaching, even provide more value to coaching clients. And so that was kind of the impetus to get that I had to write that article, was let's talk about how can we use it to be more effective in this space.
Mhm.
And it's not to be afraid. Let's not be afraid, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's only a tool. If we think about it like that, it's just a tool.
Yeah,
And
that's right. That's all it is.
use it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Tammi, Dr. Robert, would you like to chime in with anything?
I see Tammi talking. I think she's muted.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Dr. Tilghman, thank you so much for addressing the fear component. That is one of the things that interested me with the call for articles, because initially my response was fear that AI would somehow take away from the authenticity of coaching and coaching relationships with clients. And so I love that you call the fear out into the light, and with the light on it, we can expose the fear and address it so that we can actually move forward and embrace it. And as Dr. Whelan and Dr. Wiater said, align it with our faith and use it as a tool to maximize coaching and all the wonderful things rather than fearing it and running from it. So thank you for bringing that up, that point.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I think that you made an important point there, that it doesn't, and I think that's one thing we all need to understand as coaches, like AI does not take the place of that human to human interaction. And if you're using it to do that, then you're using it inappropriately. But there are so many other things that, in my opinion, AI can do to create space for you to do more of the human to human interaction. It can take a lot of load off. It can do a lot of the mundane tasks. It can do a lot of the summarizing. It can do a lot of the data analysis for you to free you up to be more engaged with your client. One of the things that for me has been super helpful is using AI to create session summaries. So I don't have to necessarily take notes during my sessions because the AI is doing it. So that frees me up to be even more fully engaged in the conversation, because I'm not having to stop and go, oh, that sounds really good, and break eye contact with my client to write down some notes. I can really be engaged in the conversation. That's been one of the biggest things for me that actually has increased my ability to interact with clients.
Yeah,
I
and
want to agree
oh, go
100%.
ahead.
I was a communications engineer in the Air Force before going into ministry. And as an engineer, I like to take things apart. And there was a study at Colgate that 95% of the things we worry about never happen. I think fear pervades much of our life. And I've been researching AI and the tools for many years, and it really is garbage in, garbage out if it has bad sources. But much of AI is increasing. And what I love about a number of the AI tools is it tells you what the sources are.
Yes.
So you can go back and check it and verify for yourself. But for me, it has been such a gift to give me leads on further reading or further research, so that I'm not turning to AI to run my life or anything, but it's a helpful assistant. So I really appreciate you bringing out that fear factor, because I think that pervades much of our world today.
Yeah, I like to say that, from my opinion, AI has become Google on steroids. And so, it's a fantastic research tool. And again, it's just like any other tool. There are ways to use it inappropriately, but that's why I love the guidelines that you guys have put together. I think they're fantastic. But just to give us some parameters and a fence to use AI. But if we stay stuck in that, well, I don't like it, I'm afraid of it, I don't know how to use it, well, then, I mean, the only way to get over that is to get in it and play with it. And that's not to say that AI is for everybody. Like, if you get in and you play with it, and you're like, I still just don't like it, that's fine. I know coaches, I have fellow coaches that do not do Zoom or online coaching. They only do face-to-face because they just don't like the idea of virtual coaching, and that's fine. But don't just shut it off because you're afraid of it, but explore it and see if it helps. And if it doesn't, that's fine.
Yeah. And when it comes to, like you were talking about the note taking, it's funny, Dr. Wiater and I were playing around with one, and it got things wrong. Like, what is going on?
Very wrong.
Neither of us said this. And so it's important that you read through and you make sure you do your due diligence when you are investigating what tools to use. There's a whole plethora of things to take into consideration when you are going to say, okay, well, I'm going to use this. Well, make sure that you try it out. Try before you buy, if you can, because we don't want you to be disappointed.
Well, I think that goes to Dr. Driver Bishop's point that, it's not running your life, but go back and check the sources. I mean, it's again, it's just like Google. Don't believe everything Google tells you. Go back and check it. The same thing here. you still have to be a human, and you still have to use your God-given faculties to make sure things are where they need to be. And sometimes I've done the AI summary and I'm like, well, that technically we talked about that, but the way you phrased it sounds totally different. And if I put that in my client's notes, they're going to be real offended. So I have to go back and massage them. Like, that was not the tone. But again, 90% of it was correct. It was that 10 that I had to correct, but I'm not just copying and pasting and moving on.
Yes. I have a very real example of that with Grammarly. I was doing for our organization today, our end of the year letter, and it's a nonprofit, and Grammarly did not like the phrase "those in need." It wanted to say "needy," and we do not want to put out a letter calling our neighbors needy. And so you can utilize the artificial intelligence to help you edit things and revise. But as has been stated, we need to go back as humans and ensure that we are honoring people as individuals, and using our empathy and things like that to ensure that the interactions are genuine and that they respect people, because technology may not pick up on those nuances.
Yeah.
Only humans can do that part.
And that goes back to Dr. Driver Bishop's point that, it's still a human running the tool, and AI is only as good as the information that we've put into it.
Yes.
And so you have to keep that in mind. And that goes to your point. Don't just use it wholesale. Get in there. God's made you with a mind. Use it, but it's a tool. It can assist you, and that's one of my biggest uses for it. Is I tell people, it's the virtual assistant I can afford right now.
Yeah.
And so I use it to kind of help me do things. And I always double check it, just like I would a human assistant.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, that leads me in. Oh, go ahead, Tammy. Did you have something more there?
Yeah, just this little tiny bit of interaction here. It made me think of the phrase FOMO when we were talking about, you said that you're a millennial. I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm right on the bubble. I was not born into technology. I'm not a native. I'm more of an immigrant. And so I do tend to fear it a little more than the younger generation. But I also have a little bit of FOMO around coaching and not utilizing it, that I'm going to miss out on all of the wonderful opportunities that it presents if I live in that state of fear and homeostasis, doing it the way I've been doing it. So I want to get over the FOMO and embrace it more fully. So I love that conversation. Thank you. It's helped me just to make a shift in that little bit of time.
Jump in, the water's fine.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
And then you have the rest of us here who are not millennials and not Gen Xers. We're a little above that. And we still have our ways of thinking. I know Diane and I love to be early adopters, and I don't know about Dr. Bob there. Yes. I think it's the learner in us for sure. Yes. Yeah. We love to adopt things early.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to make a shift here to you, Tammi. Tammi, you are a returning contributor to the magazine. We appreciate all that you continue to submit to us. I love when I see your name coming in. I'm like, yes.
Thank you. That's such an honor.
Yeah. So what do you do professionally?
Yes, I by day, I try to break it down in two ways. By day, I am an executive director at a faith-based outreach organization that offers emergency shelter, overnight shelter. We offer housing, transitional housing and permanent supportive housing. We have a food pantry, community laundry and showers. And we also have lots of resource and referral support for individuals experiencing homelessness and other challenges. And so I'm very blessed to be in that role. I just transitioned into that at the beginning of this year. So it is a wonderful learning curve. By night, I am known as the pink collar coach, and I coach women in the workplace who are dealing with dilemmas that threaten to derail them. And I coach them to minimize those barriers and to maximize beauty in their best life. And when I'm not doing that, I am a Regent doctoral candidate I will finish in March, and I do a little dancing and dance instructing to keep my sanity mixed in with all of that. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here again, and for all of the ways that writing for Bellum and contributing has just been more of a blessing for me probably than anything that anyone has read. So thank you so much for that.
Well, we're glad you're here. And your article, Artificial Intelligence and Authentic Interactions, a Delicate Dance to Democratize Coaching. And I absolutely loved how you began your article saying AI is brains in a box.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about your article and how you came to that, and the theme of dance. I see for sure.
Yes, thank you. Well, as we've talked about a little bit, the fear factor, it was looming large for me. And I just, as I considered AI and technology and coaching, I felt as though it posed a threat, that it was going to come in and replace the authentic interactions. But in diving into research, I did a shift and realized that it can enhance authentic interactions. I love what Dr. Tilghman said about the note taking, because I'm a copious note taker, and I do break eye contact with my coachee because I'm so busy writing notes. And I want to incorporate what you mentioned about letting AI do a little bit of that. So I dove into it, and I realized that you can do a delicate dance. You can maintain the core beliefs and tenets of coaching best practices, where relationship is the heart of the coaching. And you can also bring in that AI piece. And if you do it properly, just like a well choreographed dance with two dance partners, it's something lovely. And it enhances that and keeps everyone in step with our faith and with coaching and best outcomes for those that we strive to serve. So that's how I came up with my article, and grew and really broadened my perspective around coaching and artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And did you talk about your realtor experience?
Oh, I was, at one point, I was searching for a home, for a residence, and I was working with a realtor and a loan officer, and then my life changed, and I was no longer in the market for a house. And the realtor reached out via an iBot called a home bot. And the home bot was checking and giving me information about homes on the market. And my initial response, which speaks to the fact that I've had a shift, was that the home bot perhaps should have checked if I was still in the market, which I was not at the time. But what it did do was reopen the conversation and the interactions with the realtor. So I did not end up purchasing a home for residence, but as a DSL project, my final project for school, I am now, thanks to the HomeBot, under contract to purchase a home that will be used for my coaching business. So the HomeBot did its thing. It turned out to be a really wonderful situation where I thought that AI and the HomeBot, that it was a premature interaction, that it was an interaction that didn't honor the relationship, but really it helped me to find a solution to a scenario that I wouldn't have considered otherwise. So it opened up a whole new frontier, and I'm so thankful for that HomeBot.
Yeah, I'd love to know, is anybody using any type of chatbots or anything? Anyone in the audience or panelists, are you using anything like that?
I haven't used that yet.
But it's coming.
Maybe, you
Yeah,
never.
I do use it with Gallup organization. Those of us who are accredited coaches, we have that, and we are discussing literally across the world as we're coaching. We have a subgroup that is Christian coaches within Strength Finders, and it's just really neat to meet people. But the ideas that are elicited are very much a gift.
Well, that's where I found you, in that group. Or you found me, we found each other.
It was ordained.
Yes, and Jermaine
Definitely.
says, I was considering it. Well, we'd love for you, Jermaine, to let us know what you land on when you move forward, or if you move forward with that. And then maybe you could do a review for CCMag, and we can publish that. That's one of the things that we want to do. We want to heighten not only the interest of AI, but we want to be able to publish things like, I'm using this, right? Whatever, Dr. Tilghman, you're using, we'd love to know, and maybe do a review on it and help people at least expand their knowledge base of what's out there and why you like it and why you don't. So consider that.
And Dr. Whelan, you just said something that made me think I need to follow up with the realtor and the loan officer and just let her know, because we talked about try before you buy. I would love to write a testimonial or something, just how that interaction with the home bot took me from no longer in the market to purchase to actually purchasing. So, and I believe that type of feedback will help reduce the fear of people using it. When they see real tangible outcomes, then it makes it more attractive and appealing to, as Dr. Tilghman said, jump in the water. It's good.
And just quick from the box here, I've got Jermaine saying currently taking an AI and chatbot course and would love to, do a review on it. So I know, yep, thumbs up from Dr. Whelan there. Absolutely.
And we did
Tammi,
have one review on Fathom in
Oh, you
this,
did?
in this last issue, but we'd love your perspective too. So yeah, for sure.
Tammi, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the democratizing capability of AI.
Yes. As coaching grows in interest, and as people really embrace the fact that it can help you to maximize your potential and to realize your personal and professional goals, more people want to participate. When coaching first came on the scene, there was a bit of a stigma that, oh, that person needs coaching because they are a poor performer, or they are not meeting the standard and they need someone to help them come up to par. Well, now coaching is viewed as something that everyone can participate in. Yes, it can help to address areas that need improvement, but it can also, from a strength-based perspective, help people to maximize their strengths and what they're doing well so that they can continue to grow. And so because of AI, you don't have to necessarily travel to participate in coaching. You can do it virtually. It's much more affordable because the overhead costs for coaches to have an office space and all of those things are lower, so they can offer it at more affordable price points for people. And just people who have access to something as simple as a phone, not even a laptop anymore, can have an opportunity to participate in a coaching session. I was at a hospital yesterday for a meeting, and they have this for pastors now. There's a care line that a pastor or his or her family, if they need coaching because of something they're going through related to their ministry, they can just create a username and password, use a link, and go in and access coaching with certified coaches to help them to move from whatever state they're in to their preferred state. And that is something that we didn't have a decade ago, or maybe further back, but it opens it up for more for people, no matter their economic status, their demographics, or their geography, even their just their openness to coaching, just the ability to try it virtually without having to commit completely to it, just opens it up and makes it more accessible to people across organizations and really across the world.
I love that. And I agree 100%. That, I think that's been one of my struggles with coaching is trying to explain to people it's not the poor performers that typically seek out a coach. It's usually the high performers that seek out the coach. So I loved that part in your article where you talked about, just that ability to democratize it and get it out to more people, because I think, we're definitely on this wave, and
Yes.
it's just exciting to see where coaching is going. I mean, it's the buzzword in just about every organization right now. And so that was really interested in your perspective on that.
Yes, thank you for that. I had a young man, he was just brilliant, and he was the IT manager at an organization, and he was so gifted, but was really being marginalized and struggling at work to the degree that he was ready to leave. And because of his workload, there was no way that he could get out of the office to come do a coaching session, but he could get on his computer on his lunch break and do an hour-long session. And it was beautiful. He would have tears in his eyes at the end, and I would always pray us in, and then he would pray us out. And without fail, his voice would just have tears because he was so grateful for the opportunity to get to have executive coaching, and it has helped him to blossom. And had we had to get in a car, drive to an office, that may not have happened. So it's really a beautiful thing that it can be available for more. So thank you for those comments. I truly appreciate them.
Yeah, and before we move to Reverend Dr. Robert Driver Bishop, I just want to make sure that everybody sees that the PDFs for these articles for the contributors here are in the chat. So please feel free to grab those if you are not a Plus or Premier member of CCMag. You wouldn't have this. So this is something that we are providing you with tonight with these 4 articles from the contributors tonight. All right, Diane, you want to take it away?
You bet. Definitely. What? Yep, definitely. Thank you. Little delayed reaction with my mic there. Sorry about that. So, Dr. Bob Driver Bishop, Bob, you're a first-time contributor with the magazine. Maybe tell us what you do professionally.
What I focus primarily, I appreciate everything said about coaching, but I feel that there's a real need for coaching groups. The loneliness factor has gone up astronomically in our society, world for that matter. And unfortunately, churches are declining in membership. Over the years, I've been privileged to help coach groups in crises or transitions. And one thing that really attracted me was Clifton Gallup Strength Finders. It's a simple test you take online for what, $50, $60, but it has riches that are in it that help the individual know themselves, but more importantly, and this is what excites me, enables us to get to know each other better. We've talked a little bit about generations here, and I got into Strength Finders because I've published quite a bit with Augsburg Fortress over the years. And the CEO was telling me one point that Strength Finders had transformed their entire organization. And I was talking to one of the editors in her 20s, and I said, tell me what difference it made. And she says, it enables us to talk cross-generational, cross-gender, enables us to hear each other better, but also understand ourselves. And I think that is a win-win. We talked a little bit about garbage in, garbage out. And what I appreciate the Gallup organization has done is enabled significant information about the different strengths to be online. So that when you would use AI to query, it's able to integrate that with the particular issues. I, give some examples in the article and look into that. But what excites me most is I'm beginning to see different groups utilize it to understand each other and move forward. Part of my background's with anthropology, archaeology, and last month I was in Turkey. Some are familiar with Göbekli Tepe. And in checking that out, it's one of the most ancient constructs that we found, going 11, 12,000 years. But what's fascinating is if you look at each of the images, they were things that threatened them at that time, different creatures. And I believe, and I'm working with other archaeologists, anthropologists, we believe is from the beginning that people came together and they strategized how to meet the challenges that were before them at that time. Jesus in Mark 12 talked about the Shema, the body, mind, heart, and soul. And that's what Gallup has brought up. I know they had spiritual advisors, and I worked with those spiritual advisors, so I know some of the background. I'm an engineer, remember, I've got to understand why. But I think when we are centered ourselves and centered as groups, it helps us maximize those gifts that God has given us. Jesus talked about parables about not bearing talents. And the better we understand those talents, I think it is better for us and for the community.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. Kelly and I are also Gallup strengths coaches. Pardon me. And I realized that, this marks 20 years for me using Gallup strengths. And I love that aha that happens with people.
In
So
fact, there was an article that just came out a couple months ago that the groups that are using are developing a spirituality. And this isn't synthetic church, but I think it is leveraging God's given gifts, that it doesn't have to be tied to a denomination, but it's like God's power is coming through naturally.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, just maybe tell us a little bit more about your article, which was that bridging that faith and technology, leveraging those Clifton strengths and AI and coaching.
Well, if you haven't taken strengths, I encourage you. What I have found in practice is often they focus on the top 5. But you know what? As I've worked with hundreds of church leaders and such, I find the real richness is gifts 6 through 10. Sometimes those gifts, talents that aren't actualized as much, but then also open the doors to appreciate. My wife is also a minister, and we've worked together in a separate place, but I realized through Strength Finders how much we complemented each other. And but you don't have to be in a marriage relationship. It's just people working together, appreciating and valuing those different gifts. For me, what I often recommend is to take one of your strengths and then in AI, ask a question of something that you're facing. And it will give you feedback because Gallup is an open university. They make this available. They're not trying to bleed you money all the time. They're doing well profitably, and I'm thankful for that. But as I've studied it, both the Gallup organization and Don Clifton were people of faith, strong faith, and they wanted to make a better world by sharing God-given gifts with people. So I get no commission, as I know none of you do, for someone taking it. But if you haven't checked it out, please do so.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely appreciate that, about the Gallup. And that was one of the things for me that, I was able to use a lot of different tools even before AI. And then, excuse me, and then, with the AI coming in, it definitely is something that kind of speeds up the use of the Gallup for the coach and helps even the client without, a little bit without that. So.
And I've talked to Gallup, and they're working on this to develop additional resources because if you didn't know the backstory, Don Clifton was a World War II hero who saw the tragedies of war, and he dedicated his life to making a better world, people to find freedom and respect for each other. And I think that trajectory has been maintained. And I hope to meet him in heaven someday.
Wow. Excellent. Yeah.
Bob, you mentioned one thing I would love to hear from you on is you talk a little bit in your article, you draw some parallels between other historical reluctance in some other areas, and then the acceptance of AI. Could you touch on that a little bit for us? How do you think we overcome that in our current situation?
I am convinced, just like they were doing 10, 12,000 years ago, is not to do it alone. I encourage working together in a group. And quite candidly, I think any group would benefit from having a Gallup coach as part of the process, because it's not an easy thing becoming a coach. I mean, it's a lot of time and energy and investment. But what I have found in colleagues that go through that process is that they understand it's just not the individual gifts, but it is how they play off of each other. So that's not something that can be reduced to AI yet. In fact, Dr. Till, you said before, we need each other. And I think to find tools that draw us into deeper relationships, I think that's part of the way forward. Unfortunately, faith communities change every 500 years. Phyllis Tickle talk about this, and we're in a transition period now. Churches are declining, and I'm not saying I wish it, but I think we as evangelists, and the word evangelist means someone who brings the good news of God. As coaches, we are evangelists, and we are helping bring good news and a closer relationship with God and with each other, because Jesus did not coach people one-on-one. He brought them together in groups of 12 or 70 and beyond.
I love that.
If I may chime in a little bit with the AI and using it with groups, the VIA character strengths, I gave that, or I asked my team to take that when I first started in January. And as much as I wanted to be able to jump in and coach everyone individually and collectively, being in a new role, it did not afford me time to do that. What I loved is that AI automatically populated daily coaching tips for my team, not only for how they could maximize their strengths, but it would tell them the strengths of others on their teams, how they could best work with them based on those strengths, and opportunities for growth where they might run into communication challenges because of a little bit of a clash, and how to navigate those. And so although I couldn't provide all of the coaching, AI did it, and my team is still using that now. And so it's been incredible to see. And it's one of those things where AI doesn't replace it, but it definitely enhances. And then I follow up in team meetings on all of those things. So I love that. It brings us together, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we are winding down our time, but I want to make sure that Dr. Wiater, you talk a little bit about some fun stuff. When I read yours, when I first read your title, I'm like, ooh, that's a fun title.
Yeah,
No,
thanks.
hey, that's not right. Does AI have a place in Christian coaching?
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about you and about your article?
Thank you. Yes. So a little bit about me is that, I train coaches, and I've been training coaches for about 27 years, and really have almost seen about 3 decades of, what this looks like and how it particularly works. So, for me as just a person, I mean, I literally was just in a meeting and this happened. It really did happen to me. I actually had an adverse reaction to, you know, a message that pops on the screen that says so and so is using their bot to take notes, and I just um but since then the edge came off for me, and I really felt like, okay, if this is what my reaction is, I know others are having this reaction. Yes, I am a little bit older, so that contributes to the fact that my reaction might have been what it was. But, as Kelly, you said earlier, I am an early adopter. I like to investigate and I like to look and see and, look at what's going to fit. So just the whole idea with the AI, and really as I looked at it, I'm like, wow, we're using it. I'm using it a lot more than I realize I'm using it. And I'm actually depending on it in some areas. And so that was a little bit of a surprise for me, but I really wanted to help coaches take a look at it. Do I have my concerns? I do. And one of the first areas where my concern is in the area of trust. Um, Even in this space where we might take, we can't trust, or can we trust? How do we trust, a bot or something with AI? And then the fact that relationship matters in coaching. It is, you know, if you don't have relationship, you don't have really coaching. If you don't have trust, you don't have coaching. And, this piece, I mean, again, and even with, the AI and the feeds, I appreciate what Tammy is saying that her team did, but I also think there's a piece where we can't check it all, and being able to look and even include coaches in that process, and not, solely depending upon an AI to coach for us or to ask those questions, that type of thing. Can there be progress? Absolutely. But, those are things that really affected me in looking at it. And then really for me too, that championing, that's a coaching skill that really does require, I think, our presence. And it is really relationship based. And it's one of those pieces that I don't think you can depend upon, AI to really identify some things in a client and really call that up for that individual. So, my own experience is going to inform how that works and what it looks like. And I'm in an environment where honestly, 27 years ago, was coaching people in other nations using freeconferencecall.com, or using, anybody remember that link, or even using some other things. So, again, we're using more than we realize. And let's cautiously, carefully, yet boldly practice and use, what's out there, and see how different pieces fit with who we are, and our coaching. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We do have a question. Let's take a look at it. Yeah. So we have Jermaine here. Would it be ethical to have AI/bots pre-programmed as a team to give basic answers for those that need them? I found that many people in this age of technology sometimes feel more comfortable with that kind of interaction, at least at first. Not that I agree, just curious. And that's interesting because there is some research that is out there that says that people who engage with not a live coach, they do feel more comfortable because there's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But is it always like that? And I think it's important as coaches that we remain that non-judgmental, for sure. But I love, Diane, that you've come full circle with your AI and
Thanks. Yeah.
yeah. We have another question here for Dr. Tilghman. How do you broach the topic of using AI for note taking with your clients? Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And actually, when I started coaching, I wasn't using AI note taking, and then I transitioned with some clients. And I remember the first client that I used it on. He was a little freaked out, and I told him, I said, I've researched this. It follows all the privacy practices. The bot that I use for note taking does require my client to agree to the recording. And I have that conversation with them up front during their intake that I use this tool to help with note taking. And I let them know. One thing I do like about Fathom that I use is it sends the client the same thing that I get. So it sends them a copy of the recording. It sends them a copy of the notes that it took. So they can see the same thing that I'm seeing, and they can see, okay, he hasn't doctored anything. He's not making stuff up. And I found that builds trust with them, because they don't get the sense that I'm using it. They see the same thing that I see. So he's not using it any differently. There's nothing secret here. And that's been helpful with them. But it boils down to that relationship and that conversation with them, and letting them know why I'm using it. And if they want more information about it, I'm happy to provide them more information so they can see what it is. But it boils down to having a conversation with them.
Yeah, I want to say this too, which I really appreciate, Dr. Tilghman, is that this is one of the things in the guidelines. We talk about, that permission and getting that permission, and even addressing this up front with the client, that respect for the client, honoring the client in that way, and in the use of the tool, which takes a little more time in some ways, but you can see that it's worth it. It builds that trust, and it builds a pathway of trust with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And that's something that you did not have, Diane, in your experience when it just came up.
It wasn't a permission. It literally just said, so-and-so's bot is taking notes right now, and that was really a big deal. I think it was something that was very, very difficult. So, yeah.
And to that, I'll say, for my initial calls, like a discovery call or anything like that, I do not use Fathom to do that, because I don't know that person. They don't know me. And so I don't use it until we've decided we're going to get into a coaching relationship. And then we had that conversation. So I think that's important too, because that would be kind of like you were just talking about. I sign up for a discovery call, and boom, next thing I know, I'm being recorded. So
yeah.
It all goes back to that contracting, up front.
Part of that relationship building. Yeah.
I do think, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, just kind of quick. I was going to say we're closing in rapidly.
I was in a conversation with a young person yesterday, and she's 22. And I do think COVID has impacted the way that the younger generation interacts, and social interactions in particular. I do feel that because of the seclusion that people experienced, they have become much more comfortable and reliant on the technology and on the AI. And I do believe that it's a positive thing that we are exploring this and delving into it, because, as we've said over and over, it is not just the future, it's here. And as we endeavor to coach and serve everyone, we have to meet them where they are, and do it with, in alignment with our faith and coaching best practices. But they are going to expect it. If you're coaching younger people, they will probably, look for those things. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, Tammi. And thank you to all of you. I would like to give you just one quick last word as we're closing, because one thing that we like to do is we like to start on time and end on time for the people who come and join us. So go ahead, Dr. Tilghman. Last word.
I'll use what I said at the beginning. The water's fine. Jump in.
Right. Dr. Robert.
I'm going to do a free workshop on January 6th, Epiphany. And if you go to the website in the article, CelticCourage.com, it's free will offering. If you can't afford anything, just type the word grace. But it'll be Saturday morning. And I'm going to go through the history of groups working together and what I see the difference being made, different tools today, and how we can leverage them. Because part of the ministry is providing those opportunities for others to grow. So
All
Thank you
right.
for this opportunity.
So check out the PDF and check out the bio section and go to the website. Tammi, last word.
Yes, from the title of my article, it is a delicate balance to democratize it and to blend AI and authentic interactions. But if we do it with the Lord's leading and his Holy Spirit as our guide and with best practices like those we've put in place, it can be a beautiful dance. So thank you.
Diane, last words from you.
Yeah, our presence is required in coaching. You know, it's necessary for that trust, but let's you know, also take the time to explore the tools that are out there.
That's right. Yes. Well, I hope everybody had a fantastic time with these amazing contributors. We appreciate you being on the line with us tonight. I hope you were inspired by something around artificial intelligence and that you step into the water because as Dr. Tilghman said, the water's fine, right? All right, until next time, keep coaching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.